on, y'all? Hope y'all are doing marvelous as always. You know, I've been gone a little minute, but you know, celebrating my birthday weekend, so I had to take a little bit of a break. But I'm back now, and I want to go ahead and provide y'all with special session number 2. And this one I'm going to go over all the frozen vegetables that I have. So I typically like to eat fresh vegetables, you know, when I can. But, you know, this right here, I do this, you know, for a few reasons, right? One is to help save money. So some advice I was given many years ago is to, like, when it comes to vegetables, you know, try to stockpile the vegetables that you know you eat the most. So everything I have here is pretty much the vegetables that I do eat the most. Some vegetables, you know, I don't see myself ever freezing, like, you know, asparagus, for example. I love eating asparagus. That's not a vegetable that I'm gonna freeze. I'm gonna get that fresh and I'm gonna cook it, you know, either that very night or a couple days after I do get it. What I have here to start, that's Kirkland brand. So, I mean, if you're a Costco shopper, then you know that's where you get these from. But either way, broccoli. So I love me some broccoli. Now I use this, you know, for pretty much a lot, right? I mean, I'll use this I can eat that by itself, or I might mix it in a stir fry or something like that. It's one of the reasons why I stockpile a lot of these veggies is because, especially a lot lately, you know, if you've seen my meal prep videos, or, you know, if you follow me on Instagram and you see like a lot of the meals I post in my stories, they tend to be in bowls, right? So, you know, there'd be the mixture of rice and whatever veggies I decide to use, and then the entree. They typically range from any combination of all the ones that you do see here. So, you know, what I do here, you know, like I said, for a few reasons, I stockpile, you know, just to make sure that I have veggies that I'm gonna use. That way I don't always have to go out and get fresh veggies, you know, especially if it's not necessary. But I also do like to get, you know, veggies that, like I said, that I eat the most, and that, you know, this helps me save on cost as well. That's my second reason for, you know, stockpiling these veggies. So what I usually do is, when I start running low on any of these veggies, you know, with the exception of the broccoli, of course, you know, once I run low, I mean, I'll just go buy some more. But as far as all the rest of these, which I'm gonna go over, when I run low on any of these, I'll go out, buy some more, cut it down as necessary, as I need to, and then I'll put them in these Ziploc bags, and then just put them in my freezer. So that way when I go to make my next meal, right, when I meal prep, you know, each week or what have you, I have enough to be able to meal prep and last me before I have to go out and grab another, you know, batch of vegetables or what have you to cook. It's very cost saving too. So if you're looking for a way to, you know, save a little bit, you know, in the grocery stores, like when maybe you trying to save on the amount of times you go grocery shopping, this is one way for you to do so. Stockpile on the veggies and maybe even some fruits to a point, because fruits do go bad, so you don't want to stockpile like you would do vegetables. Because the good thing about vegetables, and even some fruits too, you could freeze fruits. I just don't. I'll stockpile vegetables before fruits. Fruits I definitely like to eat fresh. But you know, the good thing about stockpiling, you know, veggies in the freezer is, once you buy them fresh and then you cut them as you need to or whatever, and then you freeze them, they'll still hold their nutrients for up to a year. Now for me, because as much as I meal prep, I obviously don't keep these veggies for up to a year, you know, but this does save me on the number of trips I go to the grocery store. You know, I try to go every 2 weeks, but since I started stockpiling veggies, you know, I still do go to the grocery store every 2 weeks, but every 2 weeks I don't have to always get the veggies that I keep here. I may have these for like a month and a half to even sometimes 2 months, depending on how I use these combinations of vegetables. So that's why I stockpile them. It saves on cost, and you know, it's a good way to ensure that I always have vegetables that I know I'm going to use for whatever it is that I'm meal prepping at the time. Unless I'm getting something like I said, asparagus or even Brussels sprouts or something like that I don't typically buy and freeze. This here is a bag of mushrooms. So these mushrooms I usually get from BJ's. What I'll do is I'll get a package of mushrooms, and then I'll take my cleaver and I'll just chop them down as much as I can. You know, not to where they're like real itty bitty pieces, but just enough to where, you know, they can fit in a Ziploc bag. And of course, you know, I use these typically for stir fry. I don't really eat these by themselves, but you know, mushrooms I do eat a lot of, so it's one of the vegetables that I do stockpile on. The next is carrots, right? Sliced carrots. Usually what I do is I just go buy a bag of sliced carrots, right? They're already sliced. I don't actually slice these. Although truth be told, I probably could go buy whole carrots, peel off the outer layer and then just start, chopping them down as necessary. I think I'm gonna start doing that once I run low on these. But for right now, what I've been doing is I'll just go and I'll get the already, cut down carrots, and then I'll just simply throw them in this Ziploc bag. Now these two, right? If you look, these are a combination of different types of bell peppers, different colors of bell peppers, as well as red onions. So this bag is the diced version, and this bag is the sliced version, or what's known in the professional chef's world as julienne strips. These are used for different purposes, right? So with the diced, I started using this for like breakfast when I make my omelets or when I make, just scrambled egg whites. Usually what I'll do is I'll grab some of these out of here and then I'll just, use that for veggies, to add a little bit of flavor to my egg whites or to my, whether it's omelet or scrambled, I'll just use that and add a little bit more flavor to it. Also, this helps as well for when I do my lentil curry recipe, right? I do have that recipe on in my meal prep videos on YouTube, but I do use this for, my lentil curry recipes. It does typically call for red onions, but I started adding in the bell peppers for a little extra flavor. And it certainly does work. I mean, it does add that extra flavor. That's usually what that purpose is for. Or like if it's like a Wednesday night or maybe a Thursday night, because usually my meal preps, I'll cook, different meals on Sundays, and I try to make enough to where it lasts up until Thursday. So maybe Wednesday or Thursday night, I'll make something that's different from whatever it is that I prepped at that time. So what I'll normally do is I might pull from this, or I may even pull from this, just depends, and make me like just a random, bowl or what have you. Maybe I just make me just something at random that utilizes these veggies in addition to like rice, whatever the entree is. Matter of fact, last week I made some quinoa, right? It was mixed quinoa, red, white, and the black. And I also made some Gardein veggie burgers, Morningstar brand. And then I actually ended up using the diced peppers and onions. Sprinkled over top of everything is some of my Kinder's barbecue sauce. This right here, started using this. Let me tell you, it was a good meal. If you seen that plate, pretty sure you maybe thought the same thing. Unless, of course, you don't like quinoa, because there's a lot of people that don't. But, I eat quinoa, brown rice, try to eat the whole grain foods, especially now, and I'm gonna get into this in another video where I'm gonna talk about another special session that I had planned out. I'm gonna talk about my workout routines. Currently right now, I'm in the process of trying to cut, because, we're coming up on summertime as of this video. So I'm trying to cut down at least, I wanna say 10, 15 pounds at the most. So I want to get down into the 180s. Right now I'm about 201, so I've lost about 5. Heaviest I was at, just last month was 206. So, I'm trying to get down to like maybe in the 180s, 190, if I get to 190, I'll be fine, but I'd like maybe 187, and for my body type, the way my body works, everyone's body's differently, but I know what my body responds to when I'm trying to lose weight, and it responds better to, when I eat complex carbs for losing weight. When I try to eat more, quinoa or the brown rice or even black rice, wild rice, as opposed to just your typical white rice or, white potatoes. I'll instead eat sweet potatoes, which is a complex carb. My body responds better, to complex carbs when it comes to losing, weight, when it comes to dropping fat and, getting more lean, more cut. So that's the stage that I'm in right now, but see what happens. With the strips version of the bell peppers and the red onions, so of course, like I said, everything in both of these, you have the yellow, the red, and the orange peppers. Now, the reason why I don't have any green peppers in here, right, for anybody that might be wondering, I don't have green peppers in here simply because I don't have anything against them. I mean, green peppers are still good for you to use, right? They're still good for you to cook with and whatnot, but the other colored bell peppers, right? The green ones happen to be the only ones, to my knowledge, that don't have the antioxidants in them. These ones do, right? So all the other bell pepper colors have, antioxidants, which is good for, fighting out the free radicals that's in your body. I always try to, eat the red onions, same thing, right? Red onions as opposed to the white and the yellow and the sweet onions. Red onions are also an antioxidant as well, so they help fight free radicals in your body, help rid your body of free radicals. which help protect you against illnesses and like common colds and, diseases, stuff like that. Not to, prevent them, but lessen the risk, right? Lessen the risk of you getting them, help keep your immune system in good, in good spirits, provided you're not immunocompromised or anything like that. That's really what I use these for. I'll use these for when I'm cooking my meal preps, right? I don't typically use the diced versions when I make meal prep on Sundays. I normally use this, right? Because when I make this, usually my meal prep, the entree is gonna be something like chicken, or maybe it'd be something like fish, or it might be tempeh, tofu, if I'm trying to be, vegan that week, or, like the Gardein veggie burgers, for example. One week I meal prepped the Morningstar Chipotle black bean burgers. That's where that comes in. So whatever entree I use, typically, I'll use the strips because it just goes better with the meal prep, with the entree that I use. Especially, since it's like for tonight, I'm gonna be meal prepping chicken for the upcoming week. It's gonna be, chicken dices, teriyaki, so I'm gonna be using this. The next one coming up is, that right there is diced zucchini. So zucchini, again, typically I use that for stir-fry type meal preps, because, zucchini, it can be used for anything, really. I used to eat zucchini like whenever, I used to eat it by itself, and I still could, I just haven't in a while, but zucchini can be eaten by itself, diced. You could also cut it into slices. It was better for me to cut these into little dices. So I'll use this whenever I make, mixed bowls or stir fries or, stuff like that. Typically that might consist of rice, zucchini, maybe some peppers, mushrooms, and then whatever the entree is gonna be. Now, last but not least, I have this. Now, on the surface, probably looks more like spinach or kale to you. This is actually bok choy. Now, this one is most recent. Bok choy is not a vegetable that I ever thought I would see myself actually chopping down and then putting it in a Ziploc bag to go in the freezer. Usually, before this, whenever I would get bok choy, I used to eat that fresh. Like, I would just rinse it and then I would cut it because I'm getting ready to make it. Like, that was what I used to do. But, I started to try this out because bok choy, I started eating a lot more. It's real good, as far as, it's a dark leafy green, so it's good in vitamin K. It's good for to help with blood clots and stuff like that. It's good to help, help you from bleeding out when you get a cut or a scrape or what have you. But normally, when it comes to bok choy, same thing. I normally use this in a stir fry or in whatever random bowl I decide to use. But that's pretty much it, y'all. Just to close this out, for those of you that are looking for maybe different ways to help save money, ways that you're looking to maybe try to help sort of mellow out how much you go to the grocery store to get things, maybe try this method out. Like I said, look, fresh, can't argue with fresh. Fresh is usually the best. I'll tell you that myself. But if you're trying to save money, you're looking for different methods, don't knock this either. Like I said, the nutrients that's in these veggies will still last you up to a year. And for me, these ain't gonna last a year in my freezer. When they get low, I go out and buy some more and cut them up and put them in the bag. So these don't last me a year. These might last me a month and a half, 2 months if I'm lucky, depending on the combination of veggies that I use. And again, with the broccoli, I'll normally eat that by itself as a side. I won't usually mix that in with something. I have a few times, but I find for me, it's better that I eat broccoli by itself. But this all helps, right? You save money this way. So like, for me anyway, and if you eat the way I do, for the next month, maybe 2 months, you won't have to worry about buying veggies anymore. So that's more money you can save. Maybe that money can go towards whatever else you might need. Just depends. Maybe instead of going to the grocery store, like for veggies specifically, every week or every 2 weeks, maybe you're going every month. Frozen veggies is one of the best ways to go about trying to save money. You keep it in your freezer. You can always pull from it whenever you go and you make your meal preps, depending on whatever it is you're making. For me this week, it's going to be chicken, right? Like I said, it'll be chicken. I'm looking at mixed quinoa, the red, the white, and the black. And then it's gonna be, I don't know, I haven't decided yet. I think it'll most likely be mushrooms. It'll most likely be the peppers here, these ones, the strips. And it'll either be zucchini or bok choy. I usually only choose one or the other. I never really use them at the same time. I might have maybe once or twice. But when it comes to the greens here, I normally pick one or the other, you know, just how I am. But, you know, this right here, this method works. So don't knock it till you try it. I hope y'all enjoyed this special session, all right? From fresh to frozen vegetables, you know, if it works for you, you know, definitely let me know. Right? If you try it out, it works. You know, feel free to put that in my comment section. You know, I'm always looking forward to seeing, you know, what may work for you or even what might not work for you. Hope y'all have a great rest of y'all day and y'all take care. I'll see y'all on the next session.